Okay, I need to talk about something very serious and also time sensitive. The entire revelation that Russia acted to help Donald Trump and hurt Hillary Clinton in the November 8th election via the hacking that we now know they did of not only DNC computers but RNC computers. This is opening up many new doors to potentially stopping Donald Trump from assuming the presidency on January 20th. And some social media users have started to send me the phone numbers of various state attorneys general, urging people to contact them and request that the Electoral College voters be delayed in casting their votes until all investigations of Russian hacking have been concluded. However, here is where it gets really interesting. There's at least one court decision which suggests that there is actually some federal authority to invalidate the election outcome after the fact. There is a political writer and commentator who put an article together on Huffington Post named Alex Mahajer. I hope that's the right pronunciation of Alex's name. And Alex writes about a 1995 federal court ruling out of Pennsylvania, which might provide the legal authority for actually pulling an elected official out of office and replacing them with their former opponent. In 1995, the United States Supreme Court let stand a federal district judge's ruling in Pennsylvania, which invalidated a state Senate election because of fraud. And this led to the judge ordering the winner be removed and the vacancy to be filled by their opponent. This is Marks versus Stinson in 1994. What happened was that a Democratic senator died and they held a special election. The special election was Republican Bruce Marks versus Democrat William Stinson. Stinson won, and we're sort of using that term loosely, won. But later, massive fraud was uncovered. And in February of 94, after Stinson had already taken office, a federal judge ordered that he be removed from his state Senate office and that his opponent be certified the winner within 72 hours. Stinson appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit. Ultimately, that this was upheld. And the U.S. Supreme Court in January of 1995 allowed that ruling to stand. How it would apply here? Well, if after Donald Trump assumes office, it is determined that Russian hacking, or any fraud for that matter, robbed Hillary Clinton of her presidency, there would be at least one case we could point to say, hey, you know what? Courts have the authority to say Trump out and Clinton in. If this reached the Supreme Court, however, Pat, remember what's happening on the Supreme Court? We've been wondering whether that 4-4 split in the absence of a replacement to the late Justice Antonin Scalia who could have an impact. We now have one scenario in which that 4-4 split could have an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I find it a little tough to believe that a special election from a 1995 state Senate race would be precedent for something as big as a presidential election.
Yeah.
But we have seen the Supreme Court get political before.
Yeah.
Look no further than Bush versus Gore in 2000. And if it was a much more liberal Supreme Court than we have now, that could sway the election.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not looking good. It's a very, very interesting article, but we have a situation here where if it was determined that this 1994 election and 1995 Supreme Court case was relevant precedent to what is going on now in connection to the Russia investigation, and if it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, we have a Supreme Court right now that would likely not be particularly favorable, but President Obama can announce that he is putting Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court. He could do this tomorrow. He would be able to do that for a period not longer than a year. And that could potentially have an impact here. But we're thinking now, Pat, like 4 or 5 steps ahead. And I can tell from your demeanor, you don't think this is going anywhere.
I don't think the Republican Senate's going to pass Merrick Garland at this late stage of his presidency.
No, but President Obama can circumvent that and just appoint him.
Really?
Yeah, he can skip that, and it would last up to a year. It's not something that he has indicated he is going to do. I've said from the beginning, Merrick Garland is a sort of sacrificial lamb, but that is something that he can do. He could just appoint Merrick Garland there and skip the entire process, but it would only be a temporary appointment. No indication President Obama plans to do this. Send me your thoughts on this. I don't know that there are too many in our audience who see this as a likely scenario, but interesting nonetheless.